Hello, I'm Mike Shearer, Executive Editor of the Columbus Dispatch and Dispatch.com. I'm here today with State House reporter Laura Bischoff from our USA Today network to discuss her in-depth story on the state of the Democratic Party in Ohio. Laura, thanks for taking time to sit down with me.
Sure thing.
All right, so Tuesday was a very good day for Republicans here in Ohio, with President Trump's victory and Bernie Moreno defeating Sherrod Brown. Republicans also won all three statewide Supreme Court races. And as you write in our story on this, on the future of the Ohio Democratic Party in the Sunday edition, come January, there will only be one Democrat holding statewide office, Jennifer Brunner, on the Supreme Court. So my question, I guess, in your reporting for this piece, can the Ohio Democrats ever rebound from where they are today with just one office holder come January?
Well, the Ohio Democrats say yes, they can, and they can do so by focusing more on the growth areas of Ohio, like Columbus, Cincinnati, Cleveland, kind of like the I-71 corridor. And they said that, if you look at the demographics in the state, other areas which are red are actually shrinking while these blue areas are growing. So they're pitching a story that the demographics are in their favor. Certainly that didn't play out on Tuesday's election results.
Yeah, I mean, even though Harris carried Franklin County like it was 2/3 of the vote, it wasn't, and in other urban areas, it was not enough to offset all the vote outside of Columbus.
That's right. And, Donald Trump carried Ohio in 2016 and 2020 by 8 points each time. And this time he increased his margin to 11.5 or so, might go up to 12 by the time they get all the provisionals counted. And that's a substantial increase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that happened across the country, too. His percentages, this was his best campaign of the three.
Right. And I think that if you think about this, the Ohio Democratic Party had a bad night, a bad election, but it was also part of the national headwinds that they were facing, which were really strong.
So some of the stats on this that I find fascinating is that Democrats, as Laura reports, have lost 8 of the last 9 races for governor in Ohio. We have another race coming up in 2026, of course. They've not held a majority in the Supreme Court since 1986. They've only won 5 of 32 races for state executive offices in the last 30 years. The only place they've really had success is Republicans have won 5 of 8 races for the Senate since 2004. So Democrats won 3, but those are all Sherrod Brown, who lost this week. And then and there hasn't been a House majority other than 2 years since 1994, 30 years ago now, when Republicans basically took over state government.
Right. The Ohio Republicans have been enormously successful over the past few decades. And, you hear a lot of people saying, well, it's gerrymandering. Well, gerrymandering might play into a little bit in that, if you have districts that you can't win, you can't then seed your farm team and have your leaders percolate up. But mostly these are statewide decisions on Supreme Court races and governor's races, et cetera. And what's really telling is that the Democrats are 0 for 6 in the Ohio Supreme Court races since party labels were added to Supreme Court and appellate court races in 2022, the first cycle.
Yes, this was the second election for that, yeah.
Right, and the Republicans have swept the 3 races in each of those 2 cycles. Okay,
great. One of the parts of your story talks about how this shift has occurred and why Republicans are winning. And you talked to a University of Cincinnati political scientist, David Niven, I believe you pronounce his name? Niven, I'm sorry. He used to be a speechwriter for Governor Strickland, the only Democrat to be governor in the last 3 decades. He says that the Republicans' great success has been the culture war scare issues, which we certainly saw a lot of that in the campaign ads here the last several weeks, on gender issues, immigration, etc. What do the Democrats say about that? What's their counter argument to that?
Well, it's interesting because Ted Strickland says that the Republicans have used wedge issues, divisive culture war issues, to gin up their base, animate their base, and very successfully so. And I think that those issues have been. It's not just in the most recent election cycle. I mean, I've been covering politics in Ohio for 23 years, and it's been pretty consistent. I mean, they used to be arguing over gay marriage and other issues.
Yeah, that has been a consistent approach in and how they've campaigned on issues and I remember the gay marriage amendments and issues being presented to voters back in the 90s too. Yeah.
Well, in 2004, they purposely put it on the ballot, in part to help George W. Bush win.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, how did did Democrats explain how they can counter that, or how they have to change the conversation at all?
It was interesting. I was talking to one strategist yesterday, and he said that the Democrats have to kind of pivot back to more of an economic message, and one that workers can relate to. That is something that the Democratic Party used to be kind of the workers' party, and I think Donald Trump has very successfully appealed to those voters and pulled them away from Dems.
Okay. Now, the one place the Democrats have had success in Ohio has been some on the ballot issue side. Obviously, the Democratic Party was supportive of the abortion reproductive rights issue last November, the November 2023 issue one. But they also, although they weren't part of the issue one this year on redistricting, was obviously supported by Democrats, and that failed on Thursday. So they appear to be on the popular vote side of at least the reproductive rights issue. Is there a path for them with other similar issues that the public may agree with them on?
Certainly, the ballot, access to the ballot has always been a way in which the public can force the hand when lawmakers refuse to make policy changes. So it's through the ballot that we have a smoking ban, we have minimum wage tied to inflation, we have casino gambling, legal marijuana, abortion rights. All of those things are things that the conservative legislature would not go for. But I do think that ballot issues are not the same as electing candidates. Ballot issues are kind of like an up or down. I like this issue or I dislike this issue. Whereas when you're voting for a candidate, it's a whole mosaic of reasons and factors that go into your decision. The candidate's experience, their demeanor, their charisma, their allies, their policy positions, all of that kind of stews together in that decision.
Does that explain why 57% of Ohioans voted for issue one on abortion last year and then elected Bernie Moreno, who's advocated for a total ban on abortion this year?
Yes, I think, again, abortion issue one was a yes or no, I want the rights or I don't want these rights. And I think that, the decision between Moreno and Sherrod Brown was, again, more of a mosaic decision.
Okay. So any other impressions you got or things that you surprised you in your reporting the story of what people told you about the whole ability of the Democrats to come back in Ohio?
I think that the Democrats are bullish on 2026 when we'll have a governor's race and the down ticket races, as well as Supreme Court races and a race to fill the seat vacated by J.D. Vance, since he's going to be the VP. And I think, midterm elections often are a blowback on the party in power. And so they have an opportunity there. However, I don't think the Democrats have as deep a bench as the Republicans do for some of these executive posts.
Okay. So 2026 provides an opportunity, but it's not by no means a easier path for the Democrats to rebound in Ohio.
Exactly. And I think also it's going to depend on the next 2 years in terms of how Donald Trump and the Republicans in control of Congress, how they operate, how they govern.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Laura. Appreciate you joining me today to talk about this important story. And everyone out there can read your work on Sunday in the Current Edition on dispatch.com and our other network newspapers across Ohio. Next week, we'll be discussing Vanished, a special investigation from the Dispatch on missing people across Ohio. You will not want to miss that series, publishing on November 17th on all of our platforms. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.